Are you seeing it okay?
Hello, I'm Brian Karras, Technical Director of Graphics here at Epic Games.
Hi, I'm Jerome Plateau, Art Director of the Special Project.
Hang on.
A few years ago, we got together as a team and brainstormed where we thought we could push forward state-of-the-art and real-time graphics. There were two key areas that stood out.
See how it froze for you guys?
The first, dynamic global illumination. Beautiful bounce lighting instantaneously.
I don't have to be constrained to do a game where the world has
There
to
you
be
go.
static. And I'm able to
How's
iterate
that?
a lot
A little bit
faster.
better?
And we call this new system Lumen. We're about to show you what it is capable of. But first, there was another area that we thought we could push forward. Truly virtualized geometry. The artist wouldn't have to be concerned over poly counts, draw
Yeah,
calls,
my OBS
memory.
doesn't like grabbing
Directly
the
use
thing like
film
this. so
quality assets and bring them straight
It's
into
kind of
the
weird.
And that's a big deal for artists. I just want to be able to import my ZBrush model, my photogrammetry scan, my CAD data, without wasting any time optimizing, creating LODs, or even lowering the quality to make it hit frame rate.
In the end, that's what it's all about. Art that just works. And we call this new technology Nanite. Here is the future
Did
of
you say
Unreal
nailing?
Engine running live on a PlayStation 5.
Awesome, let's take a look at it.
They call the process nailing? Like they're nailing the process? So, hang on, this is gonna bug out again on you guys. I'm gonna do 1080Z.
Before we
There you
continue, let's stop a moment and take a look at some
You
of the
guys
key
are only
features
seeing
of
it at
this demo.
720 anyways.
Much of what you see was built with Quixel Megascan assets, but instead of using the game versions, we used the cinematic versions, which would typically only be used in film. There are around 1 million triangles each, and thanks to virtual texturing, they all use 8K textures as well.
Damn.
Nanite can render an insane number of triangles very quickly. There are over 1 billion triangles of source geometry in each frame that Nanite crunches down losslessly to around 20 million drawn triangles. What does that many triangles look like? This
Cool.
isn't noise. These are the triangles, each a different color. Most are so small that they look like noise.
That is
Nanite
crazy.
achieves detail down to the pixel, which means triangles are often the size of pixels. This amount of geometric detail requires shadows to be pixel accurate as well, and Nanite can do that too. Speaking of lighting, all of the lighting in this demo is completely dynamic, with the power of Lumen that even includes multi-bounce global illumination. No light maps, no baking here. Without GI, all of that beautiful lighting is gone. With Lumen enabled, we can move the light and the bounce changes instantly.
Is this part of ray tracing?
Okay, let's keep going.
Is this not even involving ray tracing, is it? That's like a totally different thing.
We've made some great additions to our audio system as well. Convolution reverb allows us to measure reverberation characteristics of real spaces, like actual caves that we sampled, and reproduce them in virtual spaces. Sound field rendering allows us to record and play back spatialized audio.
I don't really
All
get
of
it.
this
That sounds
adds up
like
to a
every
more
other game.
immersive experience.
Is it like it might be a surround sound thing or something? I don't know. Doesn't quite sound any different though.
This swarm of bats was created with our Niagara effects system. Particles in Niagara can now talk to one another and understand their environment like never before.
It
We've
looks
also
nice,
added a ton of new
but it's just a tech
functionality
demo,
to
right?
run fluid simulations like you see in the water below.
The problem with Unreal is it really never has a lot of functionality, right? Like, it looks nice, but it always looked really like
Demo runs on our
clay
chaos
to me.
physics system. Here we are using it
And
to
she
accurately
still looks
simulate
kinda
the rigid
claymation-y
bodies
to me.
of the falling rocks and the cloth of her scarf.
You know what I mean? You guys think she looks weird? Because to me, she looks really like putty. She looks like she's made of putty. And I've seen that in like every Unreal Engine game, like ever.
Now that the environment is so complex, we've needed to greatly improve our animation systems to adapt. We've added predictive foot placement and motion warping, which dynamically modifies IK and body position to look more natural.
Yeah,
For the
movement is
character
weird.
to more realistically interact with the environment, we've added the ability to trigger seamless contextual animation events, like her hand on the door.
Looks promising.
I mean, that's not...
Dynamic GI is amazing, not just for speeding up iteration, but also for its impact on gameplay.
That's not really anything different, though.
Any light
I mean,
source
we've
can
had
move
all
while
this.
still having beautiful bounce lighting.
I think they're just saying that the tech way
Dynamic
of doing it
illumination
is more
means
advanced.
specular as well, which you can see on all the metal surfaces. You can even see the Niagara-powered bugs reacting to the light. Lumen not only reacts to moving light sources, but also changes in geometry. Remember we mentioned high poly assets? This statue was imported directly from ZBrush and is more than 33 million triangles. No baking of normal maps, no authored LODs.
No baking. Yeah, that's interesting. I've heard that term used quite a few times before. Baking used to be something they
And we
would
can do more than a
in
single
old
statue.
games.
There are nearly 500 of that exact statue at the same detail level placed in this room,
Yeah.
for a total of over 16 billion triangles from statues alone.
Yeah, I agree. The lighting is really impressive. Because I thought ray tracing did all
Over this
though.
entire demo, there are hundreds of billions of triangles.
Triangles all day, every day. Fucking PlayStation triangle button. But don't get too excited. I mean, this is literally a tech demo. We've had tech demos look fucking great. But making an actual video game,
So with Nanite,
you
have
lose a
limitless
lot of this
geometry,
fidelity.
and with Lumen, you have fully dynamic lighting and global illumination, all running on a PlayStation 5.
I mean, it's impressive, but it's still just a tech demo. This is like an E3 trailer. You gotta think of it that way. It's an E3 trailer. It's not gonna look this way, you know, when you're actually playing a game. But the ability to show off like this is pretty impressive. I mean,
There's not much time left.
lighting is
This
really
doesn't
the
need
only
to be
thing left,
constrained
right?
to small
Because
rooms. It can stretch all the way to the horizon.
we're already like maxed out on graphical fidelity.
Portal, it's open.
But the way lighting works is definitely something that needed to change, and maybe this is it. Maybe this is just what it will be like from now on. I mean, is the frame rate actually going to be good in games? Like, that's what I'm surprised by. Because right now, they're showing good frame rate. But I don't know, man. Yeah, I thought it was a COD parachute, too.
It's time to see what's next.
I mean, it looks fantastic, but we have had tech demos that look fucking amazing and never gotten a product that utilized it the way these do. So, I don't know. I'm definitely holding off a bit. Unreal Engine 5, you know, Street Fighter 5's on the Unreal Engine. So I wonder if Street Fighter 6 might use this. Coming 2021. Well, maybe not then. See, here's the thing, right? Like, that's just an engine. That's just an engine, right? So that's not really like the most amazing thing. People come up with their own engines, in-house engines. So Unreal, they're basically just saying, here's the Unreal Engine again, but with better lighting and maybe a little bit more fidelity. I like the lighting. That's a really big improvement. But ultimately, the Unreal Engine, my problem with the Unreal Engine is that it's an engine that focuses very heavily on the graphical side of things to the point where there is not a lot of mechanical juice. You can't do a lot with the mechanics. At least I think you can't. most of the time when people choose the Unreal Engine, they're doing it for the graphical fidelity. Like the guy was throwing out there at the start, he was saying, this is the type of shit movies do. We are now able to incorporate this movie shit into actual video games. Fantastic. But in order to operate that stuff, you're devoting a huge amount of your processing power or whatever. The power of the console is just in that. And that's what Unreal Engine does, is it just fuels a lot of the visual components to it, really makes the graphics stand out and look amazing. But the sacrifice typically comes from the gameplay side of things. The controls have to be kind of sloppy. There's not a lot of mechanical interactions. There's a lot of invisible walls or distances, like what was it? We were playing something not too long ago, where we were having just that experience, right? What was that? What we were doing? I want to say Final Fantasy VII Remake. Perfect. Final Fantasy VII Remake. We would get close to a wall and Cloud would just stop, and you couldn't push up against the wall or anything, because it needed that distance, because they can't animate him coming up to the wall, bumping into the wall. They can't do it. They have to create an invisible barrier between you and just that distance. No interaction allowed. You can't do it. It would look weird if you allowed that interaction. That is what this engine typically is for, is showing things off, but then you got these weird invisible walls that you can't interact with. Like, she interacted with the door by putting her hand on it, right? But what if she were to interact with the rocks at the earlier part of the video? They have to specifically animate the ability to do that. Unreal Engine, if it had the ability to do that on the fly, just do like a physics-based kind of engine, it doesn't do it very well, because it's too busy focusing on all the fidelity side of stuff. So I don't know. Unreal Engine, it's cool, but it's just been my experience that the characters look very claymation. They're very stiff, very wooden. It's not, even though he's saying that they're trying to make things more natural, it still didn't look very natural to me at all. Like, it didn't look natural, the way she was moving and doing stuff. And again, it's just because Unreal Engine, it's almost like the movie engine, right? I think that's what it's about. Which is totally fine. You can make it. There's different kinds of engines all out there, and sometimes people just make their own. So I think these days that's not so much the case. I think Unreal Engine, I know Tekken 7's based on Unreal Engine, Street Fighter 5 is, Devil May Cry I think is an Unreal Engine. I think Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 2 remake. I think those are all on the same engine, but I'm not sure if they're Unreal. I'm actually not sure if the Capcom ones are Unreal. I think they used maybe a different Resident Evil style engine for that. I'm not sure. I gotta remember. But in any case, this is cool, but really doesn't tell us a whole lot about what video games on the PS5 are gonna be like. This, again, it's just a tech demo. The most legendary tech demo that really encapsulate, like, what you see compared to what you get, what you expect compared to what you get. Remember, there was an old Zelda trailer. There was an old Zelda trailer, I believe, for GameCube, that looked very cool, looked very good, very, very good. And it was like he was fighting like this giant mechanical spider. This was back when, I think, before Twilight Princess came out. And it just looked fantastic. It was a really great looking Zelda game. But it wasn't a game. It was just a tech demo using Link. And when Princess whatever came out, Twilight Princess came out, it was totally different. It didn't look the same. It didn't quite have the same thing going on. It was pretty close, but it wasn't that fidelity. I'm pretty sure that's probably what we're going to get with here. I mean, I know we're hitting a point where our ability to produce graphics is kind of at a peak, sort of. Like, we can't really push it much further than where it's at, which I think is why they focused a lot on this whole triangle resolution being 8K and lighting. I think that's why most of that was talking about that stuff, because we can't really push it much further than that. But just as a way of, like, curbing your expectations just a bit. Cool, But we're not going to really be seeing that in games. At least I don't think so. I really don't think we're going to be seeing stuff like that in games.